Long time no see you. Thanks.
All good? All weight balanced?
How's it going? You doing all right today?
All good? Okay, thank you for coming. This case goes back to September 6, 1999, the first case we're going to talk about. And kind of as a precursor to that, I want to say that any violent crime that we have is never closed until we actually have a closure on the case, meaning we identified a suspect or perpetrator and we've done all we can to bring that person to justice. So this one has been hanging out there as an unknown perpetrator. We had DNA, but no potential suspects. So this occurred, as I said, on November 6, 1999 at the Twin Lakes Golf Club in Oakland Township. We had a young woman that was working at the facility at the food stand, and a person came in through the employee-only door and sexually assaulted her, forced her to have, obviously, unwanted, undesired, and violent sex. So fast forward, we didn't have a suspect in particular for this case. There was a person of interest at one point. He was cleared by DNA from the case that he was not the suspect. Then moving forward, we were in communication that there was a CODIS match, meaning that's a national database for DNA, that another agency had submitted DNA samples from the same suspect in a similar kind of crime. And so obviously now you've got people that are victims in different parts of the country with the same kind of MO, both on a golf course. So both Penn State University Police and the Sheriff's Office Special Investigation Unit was looking for ways to advance this case and potentially identify a suspect. Obviously, a lot has changed since 1999 in terms of technology and other kinds of investigative capabilities. Most in particular, there's a company called Parabon, and they are an investigative genetic genealogy kind of research company that combines investigative genetic analysis to very special cases like this, where you've got an unknown suspect, but you've got good, solid DNA. And so they can combine a lot of the current genealogical and genetic kinds of activities to move a list of potential suspects that are then as the opportunity for our investigators to go begin to use them as investigative leads. Doesn't say determinatively that this is a person, but it says go and look in this direction. So that's exactly what our partnership with both the Penn State University Police and what was the name of the other agency?
State College.
The State College Police, both out of Pennsylvania. Combination of all three began to work and look for a path forward, and utilizing Parabon in addition to investigators, they were able to kind of focus in on three potential persons of interest. The investigators were able to obtain a reference DNA sample, which was positively matched by the lab to be the suspect in both cases, meaning 100% corroborative evidence that this person was the suspect both in the 1999 sexual assault in Oakland Township and in the forcible violent rape in Pennsylvania, which was done at a knife point of a jogger. And so fast forward, obviously our investigators then brought that to our prosecutor and charges were obtained. He was arrested and now has been arraigned on those criminal sexual conduct charges. So kind of complex, but again, given new technology and capabilities, I think really not so much when you think about some of the advances in science. And so we intend to use this kind of tool to bring closure, or at least attempt to bring closure to the victims of violent crimes. We know that they can never forget that violent crime that was perpetrated against them, and we will never forget the opportunity to help them take a step forward by identifying the perpetrator and bringing them to the bar of justice. And as we always say, facts and evidence go where they may. And that's what we had happen here. Investigators worked side by side with the three agencies, with the labs, and found a person that, clearly wasn't on our radar for any reason, has no criminal history, but now has been positively identified in two very violent sexual encounters, obviously. So super proud of our folks to bring this to this point, and we look forward to the prosecutor taking the baton and going from here. The individual in question will be formally identified in the press release, which you'll all be handed. This is his mugshot. He is a resident of West Bloomfield. Questions?
Sheriff, can we have his name?
His name is Kurt Allen. Spelling of the last is Rillema.
And
51.
Where was he arrested?
At his home.
At his home.
Was he shocked that after all these years, you guys are at his door?
I probably won't go into the interrogation and his reactions. That will be probably best for the courtroom.
Is he being looked at for any other similar sex assaults?
Well, that's the other thing. Great question, as always. Who knows? If there's other victims that are out there, maybe, we know a lot of sexual assault victims don't make a report. They're scared. They're fearful. A lot of things hold them back. If you are a victim of a similar circumstance, a rape on a golf course or some kind of rape that matches what we've just talked about, where out of nowhere this individual approaches you and forces you into this activity, please let us know, or your local police agency if it's not us. As we know, it was at Penn State University, so it could be anywhere in the country. Seems to be a pattern here around golf courses or even on golf courses. So that may be an indicator if we have a victim that was an employee on a golf course or jogging on a golf course or in the vicinity of a golf course. If that happened and you haven't made a report, or maybe you even did and no dots have been connected because it was an unknown assailant, and maybe it hasn't been entered into CODIS, this could be the guy.
So 2 golf courses. Is he an employee at those courses at the time or a golfer?
He's an avid golfer and apparently plays golf all over the country. Yes.
Sheriff, why did you reopen the case, and when did it get reopened?
Well, actually, cases are never really closed. They may go kind of dormant because there's no new investigative opportunity. But in 2021, they really kind of ramped up additional investigations because of the CODIS match and because of some of these new investigative tools and companies that are now available.
Yeah, but
So about 2 years ago, it really started to get more of a deep look. I mean, we've got a cold homicide case unit right here in this building that are constantly looking back through files and looking for, would anything in there have the ability to be solved based on technological changes. As you know, we solved probably a 30-year-old homicide in Royal Oak Township through mitochondrial DNA, which there was no such thing when the homicide occurred.
But just so I understand this technology, you have evidence from 99 and 2000 that are the same, right? But
From the same suspect.
The same suspect.
Correct.
But why you need more DNA to link it to this guy?
Which we obtained.
When and how and
We
why?
obtained that
Did he
fairly recently.
Did he commit another crime?
No,
Did he-
no, we were able to obtain a reference piece of DNA unrelated to any other crime specific to that person.
You must have been looking for him then.
As I said, it developed people as an investigative leads on who we might focus on, and he was certainly at the top of the list based on all of the genetic and genealogical investigation.
Sheriff, with the lab, Parabon, can you spell that for us so we can check that out?
Yes. It is Parabon.
Can you consult with them or hire them to help in the case?
Actually, one of the other agencies paid the fee for them to do the analysis for us.
I don't understand the genetic part of that. What is that?
Well, like, let's say, for example, you can go on a variety of different sites, like 23andMe or Ancestry or whatever, and now you'll be getting messages going, hey, you have a third cousin, and hey, you have a this, and all of a sudden, all of those genetic markers are unique to you, but they follow a genetic tree. So this company is able to go, okay, this is a genetic tree, this is where this person fits, and here's some of the branches as they investigate them genealogically. Here's some of the branches that may be a good investigative path, and here's some folks that may be a good beginning point to focus. I'm really dumbing it down quite a bit, but it's really pretty cool. I mean, in terms of how you can get potential suspects on cold cases.
I'm glad you dumbed it down. I was having a hard time picturing that. Okay, so the investigator's able to get his DNA. Can you say how?
Probably leave that for the courtroom. But kind of just to analogize it, let's say that we have DNA from a crime, and we have now genealogically, you take that DNA and you put it in, and it comes back and says, well, we don't have that person in the genealogical tree, but we do have somebody that clearly is a DNA relative. And the technology is such that they'll be able to tell you, oftentimes, you know, it's a third cousin or it's a second cousin once removed, or it's a nephew, a brother, all of those kinds of things. They can begin to parse and create a actual genealogical tree.
Sheriff, can you talk a little bit about the process? He's arrested here in Oakland County, but is he gonna be extradited to Pennsylvania to face?
Yeah, certainly, they have a violent rape there. He utilized a knife in that case. And so, you know, as we move through our process, when our process is done, I'm sure they very much want to get their hands on him.
Were they the ones, the authorities in Pennsylvania, the ones that led you to this guy?
No, it was a partnership, very much a partnership. We had actually a better DNA sample under their state law. They actually destroyed their sample. It had been marked genetically, but they didn't no longer had the actual sample. We still had our actual sample. So the combination of the investigative skills, the evidence, and the synergy really together, without them, it would have been obviously much more difficult and challenging, and without us, same thing. So it really was a team effort.
Is this guy given a bond today?
He has no bond at this point. Any other questions on this? Okay. Just as an aside while you're here, we also, as you know, have been for years running operations looking for pedophiles on the internet. Originally, when we began, I started the computer crimes unit way back when I first became the sheriff, but they've now become kind of inundated with actual digital forensic analysis on so many computers that have nothing to do with sex crimes, but everything to do with evidence from a variety of crimes. Could be extortion, fraud, even we've used it in homicides where they were Googling different ways to perpetrate their crime. So computer crimes is really very consumed with devices and doing forensic analysis, so they don't have the kind of time we initially had to go out and proactively look for who is chasing kids on the internet. So with that in mind, I asked our special investigation unit to, I mean, they're completely overrun, obviously, on so many levels, but to periodically go out and do some of these kinds of operations. And since July of 22, our special investigations unit has done 6 operations that they go out on the internet and with very little effort have people seeking them out, thinking they're approaching a 15-year-old girl in this case to have sex with. And so they did this operation just recently on April 13th. The individual, Stephen James, Stec, S-T-E-C, age 37, came from Dearborn, thinking he was going to have sex with a 15-year-old at a hotel. And obviously, he had a rude surprise. So our message is that we're gonna do as many of these we can within the resources that we have available, but there'll be more to come. And again, great effort by Special Investigations to take a predator really off the streets. He has been arraigned on charges of 2 counts, child sexually abusive material and using a computer to commit a crime, both 20-year felonies. So for me, you know, these are terrible cases to talk about, but they're actually a big part of the reason why I got into police work, to protect women and children from predators. And so for us as an agency, it's one of our priorities, and I'm very proud of our Special Investigations Unit for their work on this and the stuff they do every day. Questions on this or anything else?
Probably a similar question. The last case, suspected of more victims out there with this?
Potential. I wouldn't say suspected because it's an unknown. I mean, there could be other cases out there with DNA that have not, for whatever reason, been submitted to CODIS. Maybe they have been, but don't, you know, haven't taken the step. So I would just, again, say, and sometimes a large percentage of people that have been sexual assault victims don't report it. We know that. They're afraid on so many levels. So if this rings a bell with you or reminds you of that terrible moment and you were a victim, please come forward, tell your local police agency, especially if it's some of the facts and circumstances, maybe around a golf course or something or eerily similar. That's something that we would like to venture more deeply at. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.